Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining me live if you're able to today on Tuesday, the 29th of August, as we transition from some sunshine and green to possibly, depending on where you live, you can feel a little bit of the fall coming into the air. So it's these transition times, and so thank you for coming and joining me here in my studio for the last episode of the Summer Purpose program, helping us to create and set intentions and be more mindful and creative and be loving and more kind to ourselves. And so, yes, I wanted to share with you some of my experiences, and I welcome any and all if you're willing to come and give me a little feedback on some of your insights or ahas or some takeaways that you might have had from some of the videos that you've been able to watch and participate in. That would be awesome to hear back from you. This has been my first program, so I really, really thank you so much for joining me in whatever capacity you've been able to, and I would love to have your feedback as well on that at the end of the program. And I wanted to bring this in as a celebration, because summer and transition times and gateways and doorways, whenever something ends and something else new starts, and it doesn't even have to be looked at like an ending and a starting. However, just feeling that there's definitely a transition spot is to give thanks and celebration to whatever it is that got us to where we are today and where we're going to be going, and having that open awareness of what might be coming next, being trusting and having our awareness of of being welcoming and being thankful for what has transpired, even if it's been uncomfortable and challenging at times, because that challenges are where the most growth happens and where awakening and enlightenment can come from. And so with that being said, I wanted to share some of the gems and takeaways, since there's been so many. Once again, thank you to Leah and Lee and Jen for participating and conversing with me on some wonderful topics. And there have been some really great information and tools shared. And before I jump into there, I also wanted to bring us back to the e-guide. If you had a chance to download that e-guide, to come back to the piece on self-compassion. And as Kristen Neff, PhD, says, and she has a wonderful site as well on the whole compassion world, is through self-compassion, we become an inner ally instead of an inner enemy. And that is a daily practice of remembering that. And that's been one of my intentions that I've been setting this summer as well, is to live in more compassion and self-love for myself, and knowing that decisions and life moving forward in life creates so much more ease when we are coming from a place of caring for ourselves instead of being hard on ourselves. And so coming back to that self-compassion, and that deciding that our inner wellness and well-being is our main focus, and that self-compassion is that foundation of that. And that's been brought up in the ebook. So there were some good points brought up there about remembering that. And then also wondering if you've had any input on the EFT techniques, if anyone's tried the EFT tapping techniques that I talked about in the very first episode, where we can either tap in one spot, do a karate chop tap as we're saying our affirmations or things that we're saying to ourselves about that I'm going to be more, that I intend to embody more self-compassion and awareness for kindness for myself. Whatever the affirmations are, that doing these energetic body tapping, and if you want to watch the very first video, I do walk through the full tapping, and I also include the links on doing that. Just a reminder that those are some really helpful techniques to bring in to this practice of revisiting where we started and what are those affirmations, and how have you been able to keep up with talking to yourself kindly and bringing those affirmations in daily, and how's that practice been going for you? And have you been able to tell the difference in how you're feeling and moving throughout the day? And then also on your intentions, how have your intention settings been going? And when we do the intention setting from a place of love and compassion, how much gentler and kinder that feels. And to be able to allow more of that flow, setting the intentions, and then being able to recheck in with ourselves and go, you know what? That intention isn't necessarily true for me as much as it was at the beginning of the summer. And I learned, and that's information right there, that I learned that perhaps that really wasn't what was making my heart sing, and that really it was over here. So that's all information. And so being able to take that information, and also to just slow down and listen to ourselves more. And that was one of also my other intentions, was to be able to have that space of slowing down, spending some more time in nature, as that is a very helpful tool and gift that we were given to be able, I keep looking out the window, to be given, that helps us brings us back into releasing so many of these crazy thoughts, and watching the thoughts that are going on in our heads. And so I wanted to just bring in a couple of those thoughts and those reminders of living a little bit more on the intentional, kind, compassion side, and then talking about the piece of being, what are those intentions that you have set for yourself, and revisiting those and being able to look at that, and then coming back into the program. And then have you been able to watch any of the videos, like for example, starting off with Lee Lubin, her physical wellness discussions have been really fabulous. And there were so many good gems that were brought up in there that I've been thinking through and bringing up for myself this summer. And then, some of the key takeaways for me was like remembering that movement is a key element of helping us become aware of our bodies, and as well as what's going on inside as well as the outside. So movement is a way of connecting to all the other realms, and that has been a wonderful piece to be able to help come in. And here's the other piece is it's like, it doesn't matter what the physical movement is, it's any and all movement, and that we're able and capable of doing. And so that the movement helps us access the rest of it. And then sometimes we need to access the spiritual or the creative or the emotional to be able to get ourselves into moving and doing the physical too. So they all really work very well together and in synchronicity, and it's being able to listen to all that, and what is our body checking in, and what is our body and our heart and our mind needing that day. And so maybe it's not that super hard workout, or that, maybe it's like that desire to just start running or moving a little bit, walking faster or whatever, and then setting those little tiny goals, and not saying that, okay, I got to do it all in one day or make that whole marathon happen. It's the little bits that add up. And, this is that piece about patience. We're all wanting to be right now. So having the ability to do what we want in life. And that's where the other piece of physical, being physical is what, like for me, I shared, I think last week when I was painting and doing some stretching and moving, that it is easy, as I'm painting and working, that I'm doing this a lot, and so it's like that reminder that perhaps I need to have a little bit more of the stretching to open up this realm. So having a lot more of that grace in our deciding of what it is that we need to be doing. And, so grace in our movement recently, and the other big thing that Lee Lubin talked about was releasing the idea of a goal, that we need these goals. It's more about, so question what those goals are. It's like, okay, what's the intention? And then coming back and revisiting, like I was saying earlier, that it doesn't have to be, this whole big, you can have those little intentions of working out, or moving your body for an hour every day, but sometimes that may not work. So adjusting that or splitting it up. How to be creative about thinking about it instead of putting that pressure on that, oh, I didn't have that, it didn't happen the way I thought it should happen. And then the other big piece that really jumped out at me was to have humor about it. And I think that came up in several of the other videos as well, is, this whole journey of being human, is actually, it can have a lot of humor. And if we're able just to stop and slow down and laugh at ourselves a little bit more, that is a big, big piece. So yeah, those are some of my big takeaways. And the other one is coming back to is that any effort is good effort. Any effort is good effort. And paying attention to that little voice that wants to kibosh moving it all. And so, paying attention to what are the directions of, I need more space today, and then, or I just don't want to do anything today, so that, paying attention to the energy of which we're making our decisions and the thought processes around that. And remembering, any effort is good effort, and to bring the humor into it. So those were really big pieces for me on the physical part of it. And for me as well, slowing down, and I had mentioned, believe this in another video as well, slowing down and adding some more slow yoga stretching movements, because sometimes when I'm doing more active workouts, that I find that it's not as easy to have that quiet inward awareness. I'm more of just that pushing to, okay, I got to do, I would like to do a few more reps here, or however that works. And so the slowing down piece has been a big piece, a big reminder for me about maybe the slow walks and the stretching, the yoga, bringing the yoga back in, and being in community around that too has been a big piece. So then moving on to our emotional well-being and emotional freedom piece with Leah Campbell-Badacher, our second video and conversation, and also very full of wonderful gems. And so taking the time to listen and reconnect with ourselves. So great segue from those slow walks and slowing down and being able to connect with ourselves and being present with ourselves. And the other piece that was really big that brought up is, if you've not heard of neuroplasticity, to look that up. So neuroplasticity, the idea that we are not what our whole brain tells us about, and we're not what we were born into. We do have the ability to rewire and recreate new pathways in our brain. And I brought up Joe Dispenza also, Dr. Joe Dispenza in the beginning. He does a lot of great talks and work around that, and has some wonderful tools and meditations around that as well. So Lee and I talked a little bit more about that, and that is a great, just the freedom of knowing that we can and are able, and we do have the power to change the way we're thinking and feeling about, and being able to bring that in and remember that we have choice, and that it does make a difference when we do these things and do these practices. And so being curious and around our exploration and watching where we're creating those limiting beliefs, and how can we change the languaging around that, and having that awareness around the thought feeling loop, so that we can change and reframe. Just those little tiny shifts of how we're thinking about something can be huge, a big, gigantic change. And just being able to get out of that loop, that has been one of the biggest awarenesses that I've been working on for several years, and hence one of the reasons that this whole creativity and of creating not only art, but it's creating our lives, is being aware of what's going on in our thought and emotion loop. And as I've mentioned before in some of my other talks, is that art and creativity has been, and in the what we think of as art, using painting and creating art that we hang up instead of art that's living our lives, or those wonderful meals that we're making. Those are all art. That has been a great catalyst for me and becoming aware of some of the limiting beliefs and thoughts that are going on. So whatever you do in your life, you can use that as a catalyst to really become more aware of what's going on inside of you. And so changing some of that languaging, that those beliefs of, well, why not me? If we're going into this negative thinking, change that around to more of a higher frequency. And, moving from those places of that we're not okay to what if we really are okay? And being able to change the languaging and moving it in that direction. So those have been some really great pieces. And she also talked about disidentification. And so like talking in third person to ourselves is really, really helpful to be able to become aware of some of those thoughts and beliefs that are going on and how to change a possible nosedive in some emotion and thoughts that we're, and be able to bring it back up. And because we can see, when we put things outside of ourselves, we can see a little bit more clear and have that clarity come in of, oh my gosh, that really does sound quite ridiculous. And, or I've had that recently, and that's why that one came up. And also that going, well, that is, seeing where those thoughts really are very caught in fear. And so how can we change that into more an uplifting thought and one that serves us and is beneficial? And that, being able to open our hearts and come from that place of doing this out of love for ourselves, because we do deserve it. Every one of us deserves it. And so remembering that. And so just being able to remember we are able to change our beliefs and our thoughts. And it is possible. And this is part of this practice that we're doing. And it is a practice. And and as Leah says, choosing to flourish and help, and I desire to not only us flourish, however the people around us and the world, that's because we are all connected. So remembering that our energy is connected to everyone else's, and that is, or connected to the whole. And that is the other piece that brings in what Jen Merrill and I talked about in our spirituality growth, is that, this is a piece about being able to explore what resonates with you. We're all taught certain modes and mediums of how to get to what religion and spirituality and what that all means. And so finding what works for you and not necessarily just what we're fed. And because there's just a lot of different modalities, and I believe at the end of the day, they're all pointing to the same thing. And so finding that curiosity to explore and what fits for you. And that remembering that we are all energy and that we are in this together, and there is an energy exchange that happens. And so remembering that there is that piece of responsibility, and I don't know if I like that word so much, but because I tend to be one that carries this feeling of a lot of responsibility. So that's one of my inner pieces that I'm working on too, is the feelings of why. And then also how to turn that into more of an uplifting thought and not be one that is a heavy or a burden. I think that's in our languaging, it has become a heavy connotations. And that's one of the things with language is very challenging. But how to come to a place of where we can have these exchanges where it's nourishing for us and for others, and finding that grounding within ourselves through awareness, becoming more aware, and deciding that we want to choose something better for ourselves and for the people around us. And and the big piece around this is to cultivate a daily practice, because challenges are inevitably going to happen. That's part of life. So that when we can practice and follow through this intention to feel better, to be a better person, or find that connection to source and to be the best that we can be, and for the people around us, and plus that really does help elevate everybody else, is that finding those daily practices, because as challenges happen, these practices do help us through those challenging times. It is that practice that is like building that muscle, so that when those challenging times come, then we have more to help transform that and to offer the situation. So tend to, and I love Jen's words on this, is intention is to tend to, tend to our hearts, tend to our repeating thoughts. We're going to tend to ourselves and to be able to transform and rethink how we're moving through life, and for if it feels good or if this is feeling really challenging and hard, and looking at those spots and where how we can shift that around. And that remembering, and this is another piece that I talked about in the very beginning too, and I feel like this is very important, is accessing that gratitude spot. And if we just, that's such a big cliche word nowadays. So if we just get past the idea of that being a cliche, is the piece of it's gratitude. However, it's also about accessing our heart. So whatever that thought, emotion, connection you have with another person, an animal, or whatever you're feeling that feeling for, being able to open your heart and feel that warmth come in, because any kind of gratitude, any kind of that higher frequency emotion that comes in will help us transform all of our, it's like, having a shot of going out for a run or something, having those endorphin highs. It offers that space to open up those neural pathways to have change happen, as well as, the humor, the higher frequency, the gratitude. So being able to find those spots and those moments of checking in with ourselves. And sometimes it's just that one conscious breath, just to slow down and be with ourselves and whoever is with us. And that would be you. So thank you for being here with me. So yes, there were some great highlights that were brought up, and gems that have been very great reflectors, times for reflection and reminders, which I really find very helpful, because there's times when I feel like that I've got something, and yet we're new and different in every moment. So it's hearing all this stuff multiple times coming at us, and it's different, and we hear different things at different times. I'm sure you've read books or watched movies again, and there's things that happen that you didn't like. Oh, I don't remember that happening the first time. So keeping that in mind, that once we've read a really good book, that maybe it's time to pick it up again, or one that really resonated with us, or a video that we've watched. Maybe it's time just to revisit that and pull out some new tidbits that can speak to us. So yes, coming back to trusting ourselves, and I think that is another big piece, and I think a lot of people probably are aware of this too. I don't know if they're aware of it. And a lot of people are. Something that we all are challenged with is being able to really listen to our own voice, and not all the noises and things that are coming at us from everywhere else. What is true for us and what resonates with us, and being able to come from that place of trusting ourselves. And that is another one of the pieces that I've been working on and playing with as well. So yes, and remembering that when we tend to these practices and we tend to ourselves, that we are actually tending to spirit, God, source. You get to choose your name that resonates with you. And so that is a big spiritual piece, is when we are taking care of ourselves and tending to ourselves, that is a spiritual connection right there. So then that brings me back around to the creative experimentation discussion that I had, and just remembering, as I've talked about practicing, that is also a practice, that being creative is not something that is a gift given to only a select few. Remembering that it is a practice, and go back and watch that video and get some insights onto some different ideas and where to jump off from, or maybe play around with things that you've maybe done before and have forgotten about or gotten away from. I know that there were a few that I would love to revisit as well, that I have not given myself space to practice and play. And so there's just no one size fits all around this. This is finding what works for you and what resonates with you, and however, knowing that it is something that needs to be practiced. And so finding what that looks like for you, how to practice creativity and accessing your imagination, because that is a huge piece in I believe connecting with our deeper selves as well, because there's so much that's just not explainable in words and that makes sense in our head, and it's all still real and it is a big part of truth. And so how to live in and more of the irrational or non-rational space, as Leah Baditcher likes to talk about too, is living in the non-rational and accessing that. And so yes, being able to it's really critical to play with that piece of creativity and imagination, because it does release pressure and stress in ourselves as well. And as this world continues to go on with a big piece of productivity and putting out and doing and producing and all this stuff, this is a reminder to slow down and that reconnect, and that creativity is a wonderful gateway for that. So listen to those videos again and see what more other tidbits you can glean from them. And so I wanted to also just thank everyone for being with me on this journey and watching and participating in whatever way you've been able to. That it's been a great enlightening process for me. As I mentioned, this is my first program that I've done, and I have learned a ton, not only about some of the processes, but also about myself and becoming more comfortable talking and sharing and working on my ums, which I'm not so great at yet. However, that's part of my thinking process and sharing. So I appreciate you being a part of all this with me. And I want to also make sure that we acknowledge the piece of celebration, because celebration is so huge, of acknowledging what we've done, where we've come from, no matter how big or small it is. So just all the way from, you know what, I got out of bed this morning, that's a win, to doing, hey, I did another live broadcast on Facebook today, which is a little bit out of my comfort zone. Hey, it's like really, really soaking in all the things, the little things, the big things. And this would be an awesome daily practice of just giving yourself those kudos. And this is something that I also am adding to my list of doing more regularly, is to celebrate what we've done and where we've come from and the accomplishments, because that is a huge piece to overcoming this negativity bias and some of these negative thoughts that have been programmed in there from way back, that time to reprogram here. So let's celebrate that, that you participated in this program at whatever level you were able to do. You've set some intentions, and some of them may have changed. However, you did it. Find the things that you did do and how you progressed, or what you've learned from them, because everything is a learning opportunity. And so how to use it as information to take in and make new choices, versus using it as something against ourselves, of beating ourselves up, of that we didn't do this or we didn't do that. It does, that's in the past. We have right now, we can move forward to the next thing, make the next choice. And that is a big key, is to celebrate and come back into this very present moment. In fact, that is it right there, in this moment right now. And I have choice right now. And so that is a big piece of everything that the summer purpose encompasses, is checking in with ourselves, being in the present moment, allowing life to unfold, and being kind and gentle and compassionate with ourselves in whatever transpires. And the whole inner exploration of our lives and our process can be very challenging, and yet it's very, very, very giving and fruitful. So there are lots of lights and ahas that come out of that. So I want to then come back to that, to also the encouraging community piece. So whether or not you continue to get some insights, and because I do intend to continue sharing insights, inspiration, and creativity through my social media and on my website, and through my email, that whatever feel resonates with you, I encourage you to find that a friend or a group of people that can help you along this journey of looking at yourself and kindly and more compassionately and going through this process. It's so nice to be able to share and find people that you can talk to that know your language and know what you're talking about, and being willing and open to listening. So I encourage you to find those community spaces and those people to help you and support you along this journey. It means everything to have that. So yes, please check in with me, follow me here on Facebook and Instagram and my other social medias, and email. So off the website, to maybe sign up for the email, get it so you can get all the updates that are happening. And then also I want to do some major shout outs to all the people that have helped me in my process, in my community. My husband, Jeff, who has been an awesome supporter, and not only just in what I'm doing and sharing and in my art and in everything. He's been such a great encourager, and he's been my cameraman, and he's brought me flowers to encourage me on my first live talk. And it's been wonderful and such a blessing. And then also to my son, Garen, who is also part of my Gala Designs team. And he's been an awesome support for me, and it continues to be one as well. And he's also one of my greatest fans. Tears me up a little bit here. And then also to Upper One Studios. I have to shout out to them. They have been a great support. Casey and Nacha and Bernie and Victoria, to get me going and get me lined up and do all this technical stuff and how to get a program put together and have some cohesiveness and some great communication. So thank you to Upper One Studios for all your support and help as well in the Gala Designs process. And so thank you. And and if anyone has any input and feedback for me, I would welcome that greatly. So please share and enjoy all the videos if you get a chance to watch them again or for the first time. And then I want to also have a shout out to, not a shout out, however, just a space for us to have some space for sending positive and loving energy to all those who are suffering and going through very difficult life events. That since we do have the capability and choice to send out love to everybody, I would encourage us all to have those times and moments where we can send whatever we can, whatever it looks like, physically and or monetarily and or just energetically, to send love to those who are suffering and having difficult life events. So thank you again for joining me here. And I not only hope you had an awesome summer, I wish you a wonderful fall. And remember, these practices are for life, not just for seasons. So thank you very much. And we will see you around the corner. Thank you.